Do you know what people really think about you? You've been told not to worry about what other people think, but I call BS all on today's show. Your mind is a beautiful thing, but if left unattended, it can get ugly real quick. If you're not constantly curating the content your mind consumes on a daily basis, then your surroundings will dictate your daily thoughts, habits, behaviors, and actions. This show has only one goal: to leave your mind more beautiful than it was when you arrived. Welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jason Everett, and you're watching the Beautiful Mind Show today. We're talking about first impressions. We're talking about what do people think about you. And you probably heard this phrase, don't worry what other people think about you, like stop caring about it. But I want to talk about how do we actually put some care and intention into it, because I think it's a nice idea, but I also think that you are constantly judged by what people think about you, and you should probably be aware of it. So with me on today's show is Holly Fox. What's up, Holly? Good to have you on today as well. What's going on?
Not much. Thanks for having me, Jason. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on. And if it's your first time hanging out with us on the Beautiful Mind Show, do me a favor and say first time in the comment section. But if you are a repeat offender, do me a favor and say offender in the comment section. I want to know if you've been on for a hot minute and if you've been here. But the Beautiful Mind Show for us is really a chance for us to talk about a little bit of personal development, a little bit of what gets in your way and can trip you up if you don't know and you don't pay attention to it. So Holly and I just recently you were actually out here in Sacramento, Holly, just a couple weeks ago, right? Like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's been I think it's like 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
It was right before Easter, right? So you were just out here and we were doing a whole training on paying attention to details that most people don't pay attention to, right? We spent a lot of time in that training. And it was a speaker training on like how to rock rooms and how to have incredible experiences. And it was fun to do and hopefully fun to attend too, right, Holly?
It totally was.
Yeah, it was a spectacular training. And one of the things that I think people don't realize is like Holly, when we invited you kind of behind the scenes to like see what we do and what we pay attention to, what was your overall impression of like what was paid attention to that you didn't know about?
I would say all the little things that happen inside a space, like the way that the tables are set up, where the banners are, where the sound person is, how each table is set up inside the room. It wasn't like a couple things matter. It was like everything matters.
Totally. And I think this is really important because if you're watching this and you might go, hey, Dora said she's an offender. I know you're an offender, Dora. Thanks for being on here. Love having you on here. But yeah, the idea is that it's not that like a couple things matter. It's that everything matters. And I really think the path to mastery is understanding that every part of your reality matters. Totally. And I think that like the lie, Holly, is that, well, don't worry about what other people think about you. I actually going to call that BS today. I really am. I think that that's full of crap. Because if I showed up today and I was missing some teeth and I came to work naked to walk through the door at the business, that would effing matter. Don't you agree?
Yeah. I don't know how well the team would have liked that.
Yeah. I know they wouldn't like that. I have no doubt in my mind. They'd be like, yeah, no, Jason, what are you doing? Please go home. Right. So I think the idea is that first impressions really matter and people really do think about you. And I think the reason why this came up is I did a daily boost on this subject back a couple weeks ago that said, and a buddy of mine, Talking More, sent me a message the other day. And he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, I watched a video that you did about what is the first impression that you leave when you walk in the door of your business and in your house and when you go and meet somebody for the first time. What first impressions are you leaving? And he sent me a message. He said, I just want to let you know that's been haunting me for the last couple of weeks. And I want to let you know. And I'm like, dude, that always is great. Like, he's a mentor and a friend of mine. And for him to be able to say that it meant a lot. And it just reminded me though, that is a really important thing that I am very conscious of every single day, is that when I walk in the door of the office, do I walk in and am I carrying 1,000 things with me as I walk through the door? And am I on the phone? Am I grumpy? Because that sets the tone for the entire business based on that. Not that it's the only thing, but it's one of the factors that present what's going on.
Totally. Right? Yeah. Very, like very much so.
Yeah. And like this morning I walked in, like the landscapers are outside blowing everything around. It was this whole thing. It was this big like hubbub of like walking through the door. And I think first impressions matter. it makes a big difference. Like it's called a grand entrance. It's not called a nobody paid attention to it because you just walked in. It's an entrance. It can be a grand entrance. And there's some people that when they walk in, they're always in a good mood. They always have a smile on their face, and it makes a big difference. And if you guys don't know this, I have a rule personally about when I start a Zoom call with people and when I finish a Zoom call. Do you know what that rule is, Holly? We've talked about it before, right? Do you
Yeah, we've
know?
talked about you always have a smile on your face.
Yeah,
Always have a smile.
1000%, right? It's
Yeah,
like when I start a Zoom call, if I see somebody's dialing in, I'm like, okay, like let's do it. And I
yep,
start that way. And same thing when I go to end, I'm like, okay, good to see you. Ready?
yep.
And click. And it's off. Like I want them to start with a smile and end with a smile. And that's 100% intentional. 100% intentional is that I want people to remember Jason is happy, friendly, approachable. Like I want that. That's an intentionally, I hate to say curated, but a part of me as an individual that like I want people to know like it's kind of fun to hang out with Jason. I enjoy hanging out with Jason because if not, can I be really honest that I could walk in or be on the show and be like, all right, Holly, what are we going to talk about today? Let's do something and figure it out.
Yeah,
And every screenshot is me smirking and not feeling so good. I mean, how has that impacted you, Holly? What have you noticed about that? Either how you do it or what you've seen in observation. How does that function for you?
well, for me, I find myself setting the mood level because of it. Like if I'm
Mm,
walking into work, and I'm showing up that way, it brings the mood level up of the person that's behind the desk because
mm,
they're there before me. They're like, this is what's going to set my day. This is going to be my intention for the day. And I
yeah,
mean, like, as I'm walking in, I set my intention and I do it when I come home as well. So that I'm being very mindful of like, what do I want to show up? And I always have
yeah.
a smile on my face and I'm always like, hey, how's it going? Because I want people to feel like I am really putting myself out there and that they can feel the energy.
Yeah. So, guys, I want to know what are the things that you do to intentionally control the energy and the impression that you do. What is it? I mean, it's like obviously there's small things, but like this sounds really silly. But like do you have bad breath? We were just joking about that earlier. But like, do you have bad breath? Are your teeth white? Like, are you put together? Like, we talk about these in all types of businesses. The front desk or the receptionist has been called the director of first impressions, right? Is like that person is in charge of making sure the first impression of the business is made really, really well. And you know that this is the case because if you walk into a car dealership, like a very high-end car dealership, they have a very well put together, buttoned up person sitting at the front desk when you walk in the door of a
Oh
car
yeah.
dealership. They would never have somebody who looked like they just rolled out of the assembly line, putting the vehicles together, sitting at the front desk to greet you as you walked in the door, because they know that creates the image of the rest of that impression for what's going on. So this whole thing about don't care what other people think about you, it's interesting that as a business owner, that's your whole job is to care what other people think about you, to care what people think about you online, to care what people think about you in person, to care what people think about you when they see your face, to care what your employees think about you. I'm not saying to be obsessed about it to the point that it bothers you at a core, but I want you to understand that you should be intentional about it. So do me a favor, guys, comment with the word intentional, because I think that's the thing that I'm not looking for obsessed. I'm looking for intentional. Is like, what's it like? And if you want to know, man, look at any restaurant in your local city, right? There's so many restaurants with like cool vibes and cool themes. Most of us eat at restaurants, yeah, because the food's good, but like right behind the food is what's the ambiance and the energy of the restaurant,
Totally. Yeah.
right? Like, what are some spots that you like to go to, Holly, and why? Why do you like to go to them?
It's funny that we're talking about this because my husband just had a meeting the other day and he's like, well, where should I go? And I'm like, well, this place has great food, but the ambiance is too loud. It was a flying carp cafe. It's all Creole food, great food, but it's really loud and it's gregarious. And then we're like, oh, well, you could go here, but it is a lot more stuffy. It's not very laid back. The food's phenomenal, but you should be wearing, no dress pants and slacks or a tie. So he chose somewhere that was a laid back steakhouse that you could still have a conversation, but it wasn't so uptight that people felt like they were pressured to have a certain type of conversation.
Right. So, and you said this earlier, Holly, is that you got to set the mood based on the energy level, or like you will set the mood based on the energy and the tone. So you have a level of
Yeah.
control over that as an individual, right? Is like you can look at that. And by the way, thanks for the comments. I saw Dora and Christy. Thank you for commenting on there. Is that you set the mood, the tone, the energy for what's going on based on not only your attitude, but your presence, the way you walk in the door,
Mhm.
the clothes in which you're wearing. Like I was just talking about this the other day is, like I wear a lot of t-shirts, like as a part of our branding of what we do is like a t-shirt brand. And somebody said this to me the other day. They said, Jason, you don't seem like a stuffy business coach because I always see you in t-shirts. They're like, and I used to wear suits every single day. I
Yeah.
wore suits every day of my life for almost 10 years. And, and a tie for about 6 of those 10 years. Right. And I bring it up because the reason why I wore a suit and tie is because I was a very young person in a high end position. And I wanted to make sure that they knew I was there to talk business. Like that was it. I didn't want them to think for a second that some young kid, right? Some young kid who knew nothing because he wears a t-shirt to work every single day. Now that I'm not a young kid anymore, I can wear a t-shirt, still seem cooler. I'm doing it reverse, Holly. I've reversed it.
Yep,
See,
me
look
too.
how chill I am by wearing this t-shirt. But the
Yep.
idea is that you want to create the right impression. I had a guy who came into work for me, and dude, I still love this guy to this day. We left on really good terms. His name was Brian. I don't know Brian, if you're watching, if you do, you have to send me a message and let me know you watched the podcast today. But Brian came in to work for an interview. He came in for his interview, and this dude was wearing a gray pinstripe. I will never forget. Gray pinstripe suit, gray, no tie. I think he was wearing a collared shirt, gray pinstripe suit. But this dude had full sleeve tattoos, all the way down, like out of his hands, up his neck. Like he had full tattoos and he has big giant beard. And he walked in and he was like, "Pleasure to meet you." And he was like the most nice, gentle, professional guy I've ever met in my life. And he was a videographer and social media
Yeah,
guy
I've
for me.
I've met him. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
you remember Brian?
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah, I remember
So,
Brian, yeah.
yeah. So Brian, but like, Brian could rock a t-shirt too and be just totally fine. But like, full sleeves, his whole thing.
Yeah.
And like what I love that is he did though, is he came in and he basically said on his very first day to do the interview was like, "I can be this professional. I wanted you to know that I exist this professionally when it's required." I mean, I don't think he ever wore a suit ever besides that first day when he came to do the interview. But it's fine because it really did let me know that the guy who was tattooed, not quite from head to toe, but pretty close, that he totally could carry that level of professionalism, and it was intentional. And obviously in our industry, being able to be in the space that we do, like tattoos are not that big of a deal, but it really did show me that he knew how to be professional.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's part of it. And even we're, with hairstyle or like, makeup or, beards or like how you're groomed and trimmed and taken care of and, smells. Like, I know this all sounds crazy, but the bigger the company is that exists, the more intentional they are with all of the impressions they're making, because they're making all their impressions consciously. Some of you guys may know this, some of you don't. Do you know that hotels have specific scents that they pump into the lobbies of hotel rooms? Like, do
Yeah,
you
you
know
can buy
that?
fragrances for
Yeah.
the Four Seasons.
Do you know that specific car manufacturers build in fragrances that are not just the generic new car smell, but certain car manufacturers will actually make a specific aroma mix that goes into the building of their vehicle that create the distinct smell that you recognize? Like, when you get to that level of realizing that impression makes all the difference when you sit down in a Ferrari or a Mercedes or an Audi or a Honda, it all communicates something to you at a certain level, and it's designed a level of intention. So if you're learning a lot about intention right now, do me a favor and comment "I am" in the chat. I want to just make sure I understand if you guys are learning about it, because we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, I'd love to know more from you guys about what are some of the intentional things you've seen to design, sway, and influence. And we're gonna talk about how to actually get more influence by being more intentional about your design, all when we come back after the short break. We'll be right back. Would you like to have an even more beautiful mind? Well, we'd like you to have one, and we actually created a 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, which is a little bit of a choose your own adventure challenge for just 7 days. And I really think you can do anything for 7 days. It's definitely not easy, but it will be simple for you to get access to it. All you have to do is comment anywhere on this video or send me a message on social media that says 7-day, and I'll send you immediate access to not only our Beautiful Minds Facebook group, but also our Beautiful Minds Challenge, where you can go through 3 different areas: your mental health, your emotional health, and your physical health, and get challenges in each of those areas that'll help you get a handle on each of those areas inside your life to give you more control control over what you want to do every single day. So do me a favor, comment 7-day or send me a message on any social media, and I'll make sure I give you access to our exclusive community group as well as access to the challenge. Thanks so much, and now back to the show. What's going on? Welcome back. We are on the Beautiful Mind Show talking with Holly Fox, and we're talking about the power of intention, the power of first impressions, and what are people thinking about you, and are you actually paying attention to it? You've been told to ignore what people think about you and don't care about it and just be you. I call BS. I call BS. Thank you, Dora, for saying, she said her GM is known for always smelling great, the general manager for their business. And again, I think it is one of those things that when you talk about, what are all these things? We're talking about sights. We're talking about sounds. We're talking about energy, right? We're talking about simple things like a smile. Like one of the things I do, as I shoot videos every single day of my life at this point, and literally, I'm pretty sure 7 days a week, there's a video of me somewhere. But one of the things that I do is I do a face stretch before I start a video. Like I literally just, and this is a quick giveaway for all of you guys, and Holly, I think you've heard me talk about this before, is that I do like a lion roar face stretch. It was something that I was given when, before you do a photo shoot or something like that. And all it is like, if you've ever seen a lion roar, like they don't give a, what about what anybody thinks about. They're the lion, they're the top of the food chain, right? So the idea is when a lion yawns or a lion like roars, they're like, you have the like big giant face stretch and like stretches your whole thing out. And the idea is that when you do that, right, what ends up happening is your natural resting face will now have a slight smile to it that you've added in. And so if you're going to shoot a video, most people are so in their own head and they're so focused on like what they have going on inside their own world before they get in front of the camera. They get on the camera and they're like, okay, I'm ready to shoot now. Because they're internally focused, right?
Yeah.
They're internally focused. Or we talk this on stage, right, Holly? Is like you get in your head, you're dead on stage. And so this idea is like if you're in your head, you're not showing a very pleasant face. You're probably tripping out a little bit. And so you're going to look angry on stage. You're going to look upset on stage. You're going to look, whether it's on video or anything. So how does that translate to other areas, right? Is like, what about in your business? If you have a long drive to work and you were frustrated by traffic on the way in the door and you walk in grumpy to your business, great. That's the theme you just set for the rest of the day is grumpy traffic theme, Holly.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's interesting you're talking about that because to me, it's like walk-on music. Like we're in baseball season right now. You get your walk-on song, your hype song. And so like when you're like to me, I have music that I play right before I walk into work. And it kind of revs me up, and I'm not going to lie, it's Eminem. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good day when I hear that.
Eminem song. Can I sell out your Eminem song? What's the one? What is it? Is it Mom Spaghetti? Where are we at?
Yeah, no, it's 8 Mile. What is it? With Mom Spaghetti. Yeah, the whole.
Yeah, it's a Mom Spaghetti song. Yeah. You're like, lose yourself in the moment. You own it. Right? It's like you're into it. Clearly, I'm not Eminem. Yeah, the idea is that does get you in a good mood. Like it gets you in the right frame of mind. We're like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to kill it today. I'm going to do it. Like, and again, it's that maybe that underdog part of it is what gets you fired up. But do you guys have a theme song? Do you guys have something that fires you up? If you do me a favor and say theme song in the chat. If not, pick a theme song. Like I've got a great Spotify playlist that I have that's like just the songs that get me mentally right before I do something. And if I'm feeling off, man, one of the quickest ways to get yourself in the right framework or the right energy is to change the music that you're listening to. Need to calm down, listen to some classical music. My boys actually last night, right before they went to sleep, they were all hyped up. They were all wound up. It was super cute because they know, you guys know I meditate almost every day. And we put on some like meditation music and the boys were laying down like, all right, boys, it's time to go to bed. And they're like, Dad, this is super cute. They go, Dad, I just don't get enough time to meditate. Can I meditate more before I go to sleep? And I was like, those are my guys. Those are my guys. Those are my boys. But they were like, I just need to chill out. I need to relax a little bit more because I'm still pretty wound up. And I was like, what's this mature, like this 5-year-old and 8-year-old saying they need some more time to meditate? I was really excited about that. It doesn't happen often. So I take the wins when they come, right? But the idea is like, what do you do to get yourself in the right mindset? Oh yeah, Christy on here said we need one for a thinking cap. Like, what do we put in thinking cap? Yeah, I know this might sound crazy, but when I build trainings behind the scenes, I actually have a playlist that I run that's the exact same playlist while I'm creating content. It's the exact same playlist I run every single time when I'm like trying to stay focused and get it done. I use music as a way to set the tone and the energy and the vibe for what I'm about to do. So I have like a going on stage playlist. I have a before I start my day playlist. I have an on my way to work playlist. And I even too, like whether it's music, I'll give you this last one on this too, is that when I leave for the day, and I think some of you guys have maybe heard me say this before, when I leave my office for the day, I have a 12 to 15-minute drive home. And I have to let go of whatever stressed me out at the day. And I need to let that go in the 12 minutes home. Now, think about this. Sometimes, and if you're like me, hopefully I'm speaking into your soul right now, you spend the last 12 minutes on the phone dealing with some other drama before you get home. And they're like, okay, as soon as I get home, I'm going to stop working. So you have zero time to reset. My favorite thing to do when I do it well is I spend that 12 to 15 minutes driving home listening to comedy tracks on my Pandora or Spotify. And I laugh, I enjoy it, and I remind myself that what I need to do is I need to get myself in the right frame of mind to be a great dad and to be a great husband. That I need to laugh at myself, not take myself too seriously, and be ready to enter my evening. And it makes such a huge difference in like resetting my personality. And on the way to work, I actually listen to motivation and inspirational videos, which is why, in our High Performance Salon Academy, we actually send out daily, what are called daily boosts, so that you can watch them on your way to work in the morning and get like a quick little shot of inspiration that kind of gets you thinking about and jump-started and kick-started for your day. How many think that stuff would be helpful? If that's the case, do me a favor and say helpful in the chat. Or if you do some of this stuff, I'd love to know if you guys have more ideas. Comment in the comment section. I'd love to have it. Any other little tweaks like that you do, Holly, that help you kind of get your mind right or you get yourself in the right spot?
Well, it's interesting because, years ago, you and I had connected when we first met through Little Voice Mastery. And I actually have a spot that I get to during my ride home that I'm like, okay, game time shift. Like work, Holly, like I'm playing the game of an owner of where I'm at there. But
Yeah.
then when I hit a certain light, to get home, that's when Mom Holly starts. And then I start thinking about the things that I'm looking forward to and I'm excited about with my family. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
wonder how this went. And I'm prepping myself to be able to walk in that door and just have that moment. And so, yeah, to me, it's more like a game shift of like one
Mhm.
time, now I'm moving on. And I got to say, those daily boosts are huge because it just kind of almost feels like when you're doing those kind of things, like every day, like I have intentions and things like that I set my day up with, it does help with the way that the flow is going to go. So, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I saw Dora on here commented, I like silence. One of the things that I've, as a professional speaker, silence is not a gift that I came with naturally. And it used to really bother me to sit in silence. And one of the things that I've done recently is just literally set a timer and sit in silence. Like I'll get up really early in the morning before any noise is getting made. I will put on noise canceling headphones and I will set a timer for between 30, 45 minutes or an hour and just sit in silence. Not necessarily with a goal of like meditating, even though that is part of a meditation process. Not necessarily just meditating, but just sitting in silence and allowing my thoughts to come and without being like, oh, you're supposed to be meditating or was just let my thoughts happen. And the amount of silence that came out of that was really powerful for me. And recently, Holly, I don't know if you knew, I like last week, I lost my voice and I couldn't talk for like 3-4 days.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. That was forced silence, right? The universe was apparently tapping me on the shoulder. But the idea is that, using that silence as a way for you to think. I think it's really hard to think and talk at the same time. It's also really
Agreed.
hard to listen to somebody else and talk at the same time. So silence is a gift. And I just did a daily boost on that one too, the power of silence right after getting my voice back. And I think the idea is that you need to use all of those tools at the right time. When you can kind of navigate in and out of those tools in your life and in your reality, you can start to shift the energy that you create around you. And I think the most important thing for you guys to get out of today's Beautiful Mind Show is that you can control your own energy and set the tone for other people's energy and thereby influence other people's energy. So if you feel like you're around people that are just constantly negative and drama and all those things, just ask yourself, what am I doing to contribute to that? Am I doing something to contribute to the idea of that unintentionally? And by the way, you could be doing that. You could be walking in frustrated, or you could have, anybody know what an RBF is? Do me a favor, somebody type in the chat, what's an RBF? Maybe you've got RBF going on and you're creating that attitude around you because people always think that you're grumpy and offended, right? Like I know there's some people that I've mentioned, like as a coach, I said, you kind of rock RBF all the time. They're like, what? I do? Or no, I've heard that before. And I'm like, look, take a conscious moment and set it up and look for it to be different. I've literally driven around in cars, and when I see somebody driving around with an RBF, and hopefully somebody will say that in the chat so they know what it is. But but I've driven around, probably have an RBF on. If I see somebody with that going on in their car, I will intentionally make sure that I'm smiling while I'm driving around. I want to impact people around me. I want people to look at me in the car and be like, why is that dude so damn happy? Literally. And it makes all the difference. I'll leave you with this last thought. When I used to cold call for a living professionally, one of the best tips I ever got was leave a mirror on your desk. Leave a mirror on your desk. And before you pick up the phone, make sure you're smiling. I don't have a mirror on my desk anymore, but I am, even as I'm doing this video, I've got 3 screens that I can see myself back. It's a reminder for me to smile. So the number one thing you can do is smile more, be intentional about it, and you will start to change, redirect people's energy around you. So do me a favor, use that as a tool. I'd love to know what was helpful out of today's show for you. What was the thing that gave you the most value? Do me a favor and comment in the comment section. And again, the Beautiful Mind Show is something we've been working on for a hot minute now, and we're getting a lot of momentum on it. So do me a favor, if you haven't left us a review on Spotify or Pandora or on Apple iTunes for podcasts, please do me a favor. And if today's show was valuable, take the extra minute or two to go over and leave us a great review. We'd love to know more about what you're getting value out of, and find a way for you to give a review right to this podcast to help us out and to share this with other people. And if you know somebody that needs to have more energy, share this video with them or tag them in the comment section. It would be very helpful. Holly, thanks for being on today. As always, I appreciate having you on the show, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Be awesome, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you want to get access to our 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, you can either comment below and just say 7-day, and I'll shoot you the information so you can get immediate access to that, or find me on any social media and just send me the message 7-day, and I'll make sure I get that out to you right away. And if you really enjoyed today's show, it would do me a huge favor if you went online, whether it was Spotify, Pandora, or iTunes, or any sort of podcast platform that you can find us on, and search for The Beautiful Mind Show, subscribe to our channel, and then make sure you give us a rating. Every time you give us a rating, it helps us get more eyeballs on our show and help more people have a more beautiful mind. Thanks again for joining us.